to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm broadcasting to you from Central Europe. We're kicking this week's live classes off with speaking section. Specifically, we will focus on part 1. I will talk about strategies that are important for the entire speaking section. Good to see so many students joining in. Hi, Faida Alazawi. Hi, Anatoly. And good to see members. Hi, Paula. Hi, Amrit. And welcome all of our students and viewers. Okay, students, just a quick preamble. Again, our materials, they come from our websites. So for lots of help with the exam, please do visit us at aehelp.com for academic IELTS, and for the general version of the exam, check us out at gieltshelp.com. And right now we have a promotion going. So on our websites, you can use this code here, LIVE20, L-I-V-E 20, to get a 20% discount on our courses, which is a great deal. Spend a couple dollars, save yourself a lot of headache and trouble later on. The websites, they look like this. This is our academic website at aehelp.com. You can join by clicking that big red button, and then you can apply the coupon code that I just gave you by clicking that big blue use coupon code button. Same thing for our general IELTS website. It's the green background at gieltshelp.com. Click that red button there. All right, students. So if you have questions, comments, concerns about the exam or about our products, don't be shy. Please send me an email, adrian@aehelp.com, and I will absolutely respond as best as I can. Hi, Wafa. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Hi, Mariko. Good to see you in class. Live classes run from Wednesday to Saturday. On Wednesday, it's one class. All the other days, we have two classes. First class is for members. Second class is for everybody to chat. Members' classes start at 13:30 Central European Time, and everyone chat classes start at 15 o'clock. That's 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Let's get into the speaking of the exam. So the speaking, for those of you who are new to IELTS, the speaking is done on the same day as your sit-down exam separately. It's a 12 to 15-minute interview. It could be on the day before or the day after as well. There's no guarantee that it's on the same day. But your marks you receive at the same time, about 2 weeks after you're finished. In the speaking, you will be interviewed face-to-face, one-on-one, usually by a native English speaker. In many cases, that will be somebody British, but it can often be someone from the US, Canada, or another English-speaking country as well. So be ready to listen to different kinds of accents. Hi, Carlos Claire. Hi, Preeti. Good to see more members in class. Now, one very kind of dangerous concept or idea that many students have with the speaking part of the test is that they will have a kind of a natural interview, like a real conversation with this native speaker. And that's not true. Okay, so when you're getting ready for the speaking part of the test, you should not think about it like this is just another interview. It's like having a conversation with my English-speaking friend, or it's like having a conversation with somebody who's doing a job interview. It is unique, okay? The IELTS exam, they tell you that, oh, it's just a 15-minute speaking interview. We ask you some questions, you give us some answers, and no problem, we'll assess your speaking and have a great rest of your day. But it is quite technical, okay? And they're looking at your English skills, so they're looking at your vocabulary, your lexical resource. They're looking at your grammar structures. Are you using a range of grammar, present perfect, conditionals, adjective clauses. So they're looking for those details. And they're also looking for how coherent is your language, so how clearly can it be understood. And they're also looking for how accurate it is. So are you actually answering the questions that they're asking you specifically? Okay? And that's not necessarily natural. Why? Why do I say that? Let me hear it from the students. So why is it unnatural, or why is it not like real world conversations when the IELTS is looking at how accurately students answer the questions that are being asked? So the topic, the controlling idea, the specific question. Why is that not natural? It's kind of a strange question. So Amrit says, well, because I can make up answers. That's true, but Amrit, you can make up answers in real life as well. So in the real world, we sometimes make up answers or lie or fib, however you want to call it. It's somewhat of a, yeah, there we go. So Paula has a very good answer. If everybody's looking at Paula Dennis, one of our members with the green, that's the right answer. Because in real life, we actually go off topic quite frequently, and we miscommunicate quite frequently. You're absolutely right, Paula. Very good, very clever of you to pick that up. So in the real world, we get into arguments, we get into miscommunication, we get into misunderstandings frequently. We're speaking the same language, even our own native language, but we're not speaking to each other clearly. For the IELTS exam, you have to speak clearly, okay? I'm going to explain that as we get into it. Let me start by asking you a question. I'm going to prove this to you with a question instead. So here's my question. Give me a nice answer, students. How far, and this could be a part 1 icebreaker question by the examiner. So the examiner can say, how far do you live from your work or school? Okay. So how far do you live from your work or school? This could be an icebreaker question. So give me a nice answer for this one, students. How far do you live from your work or school? Okay, give me a good answer for that one. So Keti, Lubinda, you're doing your speaking tomorrow. I'm glad to help you out with this. Pay really careful attention to this lesson. It could easily save you some marks. Okay, so this is quite an important question here. Okay, so Naj says 2 kilometers away. Amrit says 15 kilometers northwest from my school. Paula says my workplace is around 5 miles from my house. Indeed, I take the bus every day to go to work and spend about 30 minutes riding the bus. Paula, that's a great answer. Mariko says I live about 30 minutes from my school on foot. Okay, good. All right. So Ahmed says I live not too far from work. It only takes about 15 minutes by metro. Great. So notice, students, that some of you are using measures like kilometers. Some of you are using measures like minutes or time plus mode of transportation like metro or on foot. Okay, so that works, but you do have to be really careful because the true measure of distance, right? The question is, how far do you live from your work or school? So the true measure of distance is kilometers. Even though in everyday situations, we often will use time, like I live 5 minutes from work or I live 5 minutes from school, it's not a correct measure of distance. Time is not an accurate measure because, of course, we have these different methods of getting to school or getting to work. So if I say I don't live far from work, it only takes 10 minutes by metro, well, sure, but that means it takes an hour on foot. So if I go on foot, that's actually very far. If I go by metro, sure, it's close, but if I go by on foot, it's quite far. So distance is the accurate measure. That's called the valid measure of distance, okay? The valid measure of distance. So when you're doing the IELTS exam, your goal is always to find accurate, clear, valid pieces of information to explain your ideas. Whether it's a lie or the truth or what you imagine, that doesn't matter. It just needs to be a valid measure so it's very clear to your audience, in this case, the examiner. Okay? So that's step number one. Now, let's get into a few questions. We'll practice, and then I will give you more tips to increase your band score and increase the clarity of your communication. Okay? I'm not just using the board, I'm using the computer as well, Pachu. All right, so here are my digital notes, Pachu, as you'll see. So how to approach IELTS questions, a real communication versus the IELTS communication. So just to sum that up, in the real world, we often miscommunicate and we often don't think about what the listener needs to hear or what they want to hear, but instead we think about what we want to say, okay? On the IELTS exam, you have to really focus on what the examiner wants to hear instead of what you want to say. A lot of students get into trouble when they're answering questions about what they want to say, and they think, oh, I'm being natural, so I'll get a good natural score, and I'm being genuine and authentic, so that's what they want. Yes, they do, but it has to be good communication, okay? And the trick is that many times when we're being natural, we're not communicating well, okay? So you really have to think about your audience, okay? Think about the examiner. Your examiner does not necessarily know your culture. If you start talking about celebrations that are unique to your culture or religious activities that are unique to your culture, that can be very difficult to explain because your examiner has no idea. So it's better to stay away from those kinds of information. Okay? So again, remember this example, the how far do you live from your work or school? You have to have valid information. If you're not clear on this word, I highly recommend looking up validity. Okay? Now, as the second part of this concept, it's really important to use the questions and paraphrase the questions. That is the most important technique to stay on topic and stay with the controlling idea. Use the question. Always use the question. Paraphrase it whenever you can. If you can't, just reverberate it, okay? But use the question. So let's start off looking at part one today. So again, part one, you will go into the exam room. This is speaking, so please repeat me as we're doing this. Repeat your classmates as they give good answers to these questions, okay? Answer, explain, example. The examiner begins by saying, welcome to the speaking portion of the IELTS exam. My name is Adrian. I will be your examiner for this part of the test. Please take your seat. May I see your identification or your passport, please? Okay. What should you say to that? May I see your identification or passport, please? I know I asked this 1,000 times, but I still get some funny answers sometimes, so I really want you to be proficient with this. Okay. So, may I see your passport or identification, please? Paula says, sure, here it is. And Paula, if you want to tack on just a little bit more politeness, you can say, sure, here it is, please take a look. That please take a look kind of smooths it into a nicer transition. Sure, here it is. Please take a look. Okay. Carlos Claire says, of course, here it is. Please have a look. Yes, sir, here you go, by Chinoso Teclar. That's good as well. Yes, sir, here you go. Absolutely. Or if it's a woman, then it's yes, madam. Here you go. Roshni Kunte, we don't use a certain. It has to be certainly. You can. Okay. Harminder, yes, of course. Please have a look. That's good. Yes, sir, please have a look. Preeti is good as well. So different ways to say it. Again, students practice different ways of saying it. How's the brightness on the board? Can everybody see the questions? Is that a little bit better? A little bit darker? It's always a fine balance between seeing the board and seeing me move around. Okay. So they take a look at your passport. They'll kind of do this funny looking at the passport, looking at your face, looking at the passport, looking at the face. They're actually identifying your features, making sure it's you. Students have used doppelgangers in the past. It means lookalikes to sit the exam, which is, of course, cheating. So they kind of look at your face, look at the passport, and they'll ask your name. Okay? So what is your full name? Give me an answer for that. What is your full name? Kamal, that's a good answer for the previous question. Yes, but are you going to give it back is the correct way to ask. To say that politely, Kamal, you can. You can say, yes, please have a look. Please do give it back after. And I'm sure they'll say yes. All right, so what is your name? I have some names coming up. Amandeep Singh says, my name is Amandeep Singh. Preeti says, my given name is Preeti and my surname is Sina. You can call me V. Okay. Harminder says, my full name is Harminder Dinza. Please just call me Harminder. Sure, yeah. So, my full name is Harminder Dinza. I believe that's how it was spelled, Harminder. Please just refer to me as Harminder. And that's great, especially if you don't have a nickname. Okay. That works. You can go more long-winded. You just make sure that you're very fluent. You can say, my first name is John. My family name is Smith. Please call me by my nickname, Jojo. Okay, so you can do it like that as well. Try different ways. Hasib says, my complete name is Hasib Mustafa. Please call me by my first name, which is Hasib. That works as well using an adjective clause. Please call me by my first name, which is Adrian, is a nice way as well to say it. Okay, then comes the next question, couple more icebreakers. They'll give you your passport back. They should. So they should say, here's your passport back. Say thank you. Put it away. Don't leave it on the table. And then the examiner will say, now we'll ask you a couple questions to get to know you better. Some questions on a general topic. So the next question is, where do you live? So where do you live? Give me a good, nice answer for where do you live? Okay, and try to never answer with a question. It's not the end of the world, but you shouldn't be like, do you mean like a house or apartment, or do you mean which city do I live in? So just pick both or pick one and give the answer. Okay, so where do you live? Always full answers, students. Always give full answers. So Ahmed Tekeli says, I live in Sicily, Istanbul. Sure. Maybe a little bit more information than that. Chinky Wadwa says, I belong to a very small town, Pihowa. It's in the district of Kurskudana. Sorry, I couldn't read that last word. I live in Kobe City, which is the capital of the Hyogo Prefecture. Yep, that's Japan. I've been there. Absolutely. Okay. Rahul says, I live near the capital, which is Faridad. Okay, I kind of missed that last part there. Good. So there's some good answers coming up there. Sure. One way to do this, students, is start small and go to the big, right? So where do you live? I live in a small 2-bedroom house in the suburbs of Victoria, which is the capital city of the province of British Columbia, the westernmost province of Canada. All right. Again, this is something that's a little bit different between natural everyday communication and the IELTS exam, or what we can also call professional communication. So in everyday communication, when we're not in a rush, we're not under pressure, we're not forcing our brain to think critically, analytically, structured, linear, etc. We jump around in information. So we talk about the big, then we talk about the small, then we talk about the big again, then back to the small, then maybe jump to the middle size, and then move around. And eventually it might get really confusing, and then our listener, our friend, our brother or sister might say, oh, sorry, I'm not really getting what you're saying. Can you say that again? So then you rethink it, and you say it again. But you can't do that in the exam. You only have 15 minutes. The examiner really wants to ask you as many questions as possible. So you have to have clarity as much as possible in your professional communication. And that means having structure as well. So notice that my answer here, it's quite long-winded for an icebreaker, but it works. And I go from the small all the way to the big. So I start with my house, I start with the area of the city, and then I go to the province, and then I go to the national level. And I mean, we could get silly and say it's the continent of North America, right? To go even higher scale. But that works. So again, repeat after me. I live in a small 2-bedroom house in the suburbs of Victoria, which is the capital city of the province of British Columbia, the westernmost province of Canada. Okay, that would be considered a very coherent, complete answer. There's no missing information there. So there's, let's say, 100% clarity for the listener. Okay, that's your goal. You want that 100% clarity. You want to leave the examiner feeling like, oh, I don't have any questions left. They've completely given me an idea of what I want to know. Okay, so again, another big difference is structure. Okay, remember that in professional communication or on the IELTS exam, you need to have very clear structure. Okay, so you must strive for structure in your answers and descriptions. All right, students, let's keep going here. Everybody's doing a great job, so there's a lot of good answers coming. Here's the next question. Again, more icebreaker. Yeah, you can, absolutely. So Vish Parvani says, can we say what our city is famous for? You can if you're being asked that question. If not, don't go off topic, Vish. So don't just start talking about information, or don't just add information in. Again, another difference between real communication or everyday communication and professional communication. And everyday communication, again, as Paula says, we'll go off topic, so we'll start talking about other ideas. But here you need to stay with the question. It's very important. So what do you like about living there? Okay, that might be your next icebreaker question. So first question, where do you live? I live in a small 2-bedroom house in the city of Victoria. What do you like about living there? Give me a nice answer for this. Okay. Nash says, well, what I like the most about where I live is it's quiet and very safe. All right. Justine Philippe Montero says, what I like about living in my hometown is that it has a diverse culture and has a unique tradition which sets it apart from the surrounding cities and towns. Sure, Justine, that's a good answer. So it has diverse culture and it has a unique tradition, Justine. It's a little bit confusing. You want to be careful there. Diverse culture is somewhat contradictory to a unique culture. So diverse culture, unique tradition. So what is your unique tradition? You might want to add that in there. Okay. All right, Tina says, well, I really like to live here in Tehran. What I like about the city is the beautiful mountain views. However, it's too crowded. Tina, that's a good answer, but again, remember, here I didn't ask you what you don't like about living there. So don't answer that question. Okay, don't tell me what you don't like, even if you honestly feel that you don't like that it's crowded. Just stay with the mountain views. Okay, so just what you like. Target the question specifically. All right. Paula says the best part of living in the city center is that I have many amenities and shops only 5 minutes walking distance from my flat. And when I go out for drinks, I don't need to order an expensive taxi to get home. Okay, Paula, that works. Sure, absolutely. That works well. All right. I love all of the greenery as Victoria is internationally renowned as the Garden City. Not only do the variety of flowers and trees make the city quite scenic, but it also provides a ton of fresh air to enjoy. All right. Okay. So that's my answer. Again, stay on topic. So don't say what you don't like about it. Don't talk about the culture unless it's the culture that you like about it. Okay, so stay on topic. So here we go again. Repeat after me. So I love all the greenery as Victoria is internationally renowned as the Garden City. Not only do the variety of flowers and trees make the city quite scenic, but also provide a ton of fresh air to enjoy. Okay. All right, so those are your icebreaker questions. And then the examiner will ask you some more questions on a general topic, okay? And here, the general topic is, let's talk about parents. Let's talk about parents. And these part one topics, there'll always be something new with a new twist, okay? You can practice for them, but it's virtually impossible to guess exactly what they will be. So just be open-minded, okay? It's also very important to be interested and enthusiastic, okay? So some of you might be thinking at this point that, I don't really like talking about my parents. And sometimes other topics like sports or music, sometimes people are art. People are like, well, I'm not a big art fanatic, so I don't really like talking about art. You can't approach it that way, okay? Again, this is a difference between real-world communication and the IELTS speaking interview. In the real world, when we don't like talking about a topic, we can say, you know, I'm not really into sports, so can we talk about something else? But you can't do that in the actual exam. You have to talk about that topic. You have to force yourself to be interested and excited about it, okay? All right, so the first question here is, how often do you see your parents? How often do you see your parents? Give me a nice, full sentence answer to this question of how often do you see your parents? John Turner says, I like to, and I'm going to correct you, John, in real time here. I like to see my parents as much as possible, but as a student, I'm so busy and I study on the weekend, so unfortunately, I don't get to see them as often as I'd like, maybe just twice a week. Okay, John, that would be a clear answer. All right. Jessica Alfama, very good. Jessica Alfama, and again, students repeat me, so I'm correcting students in real time, so it is correct English. So Jessica Alfama says, I see them every single day because I live with my parents. Jessica, perfect answer. Okay, that works. Now that, Jessica, is a great example for another difference between real world and the exam. In the real world, some questions just come across as silly, right? Because we don't have to explain that we see our parents all the time when we're clearly living at home with them. But in the IELTS exam, even when the answer seems obvious, like it's right in front of you or it's very clear, you still have to say it. You have to say it to the examiner. Okay, you have to imagine that the examiner is like an alien. They don't know what you know. So never assume that the examiner has an obvious answer in their mind. All right? Okay, Boo Miu says, although I am a freshman in university, I still live with my family. Therefore, I frequently see my parents on a daily basis. Good. Very nice answer. I like that answer. It's nice and complex and natural. So very nice answer, Boo. That's a band 9 level answer. Lanthew says, actually, I don't often see my parents as I still have to finish my studies in the capital for 2 more years, and I don't get a lot of chances to visit them in my hometown. Okay, Lanthew, that was pretty good. Yeah, absolutely. There's a little bit of awkward phrasing there, but otherwise it was quite good. Valentina Costa says, well, I see my parents once a month. I left my hometown where my parents currently live for university. In this sense, every time I go back home, I have a chance to visit with them, which is about once a month, right, Valentina? So finish that idea. So, I rarely, I'm just going to make up an answer here. I rarely see my parents as I am currently studying abroad at university. So I only get together with them on special occasions like Christmas when they come to visit with me. Okay, so again, there's a nice natural answer. Repeat after me. I rarely, okay, again, adverb of frequency, often. I'm throwing in an adverb of frequency right away to show the examiner that I get that, okay? I rarely see my parents as I'm currently studying abroad at university. So answer, explanation right away. So I only get together with them, I'm paraphrasing C, okay? On special occasions, example, like Christmas, when they come to visit me. When they come to visit me is a real conditional, so it's a complex sentence also. That's what you need to do for those high IELTS band scores. That's what the examiner is looking for. It's on target. You give the answer. You reflect what they're looking for, in this case, adverbs of frequency, and you have some smooth flowing examples to strengthen your explanations. Again, not quite natural in the real world, but perfect for the exam. Okay? One more. Silin Wang says, before I came to Australia, I saw them every day because I lived with them, but now I only get to meet with them during school holidays. Silin Wang, very good. It's quite similar So Marina Mint says it could be a painful topic if you don't have parents. That's true, Marina. But on the IELTS exam, there could be situations like that. Okay, you have to be prepared for that. You have to be able to move past that. And if you don't have parents, just again, you have to stay cold in the IELTS, Marina. You have to be professional, but somewhat cold. So you have to say, unfortunately, my parents passed away, so I never get to see them, but they're with me in my memories every day. Okay, so that would be a natural answer. Be confident. And yes, of course, I thought about that with these questions as well. So if you don't have parents, it could be, sadly, both of my parents passed away years ago, so I do not get to see them physically, but they are with me in memory each and every day. Okay, so you can answer that way. Okay, be confident, be strong on the IELTS exam. Don't take anything personally. The goal of the examiners is to measure your language and your communication. That's why you're there. No, Kyber, it's very unlikely that you can change the topic. Okay, it's very unlikely that you're going to have a topic which is overly sensitive. But you never know. I mean, we can talk about children, and unfortunately, you know, some people lose their children as well, which is even more painful than losing parents. So maybe they might change the topic in this case, but it's quite strict rules. So I'm not really sure what they would do in that situation. All right, let's keep going, students. Let's push forward. Next question. Where do your parents live? Where do your parents live? Okay, give me a nice full sentence answer here. Okay, where do your parents live? And hint, hint, for those of you who are following from the beginning of class, don't forget about the icebreaker questions. Remember the first icebreaker question? Where do you live, right? You might be able to give me a more interesting answer for this one if you think back to the original question and answer you gave for that. So where do your parents live? Yali Pang says, well, my parents and I live in different cities. They live in my hometown, which is 2,000 kilometers away. What's the name of the hometown, Yali? So always mention the name, okay? All right. Pravash says, well, I don't see my parents often because I'm currently studying in South India away from my hometown. So I get a chance to meet with them about once every 6 months. Pravash, that's for the previous. That's good. Okay. Preeti says they live in the center of the city of Udaipur since 1980, and it is 5 kilometers roughly from my home. Okay, that works quite well. Just watch your word order, Preeti. Paula says, my parents live in a 4-bedroom big house in the small town of Leon, northwest Spain. It's not northwest of Spain, Paula, because if I'm not mistaken, they live in Spain. Northwest of Spain means it's outside of Spain to the northwest. Okay, so careful with that. Leon is a really cool name for a town. It means in the town of lion. All right, Amrit Bogan says, my parents live in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Caledon. It is the street next to where I live, which makes it easy for us to get together. Good, Amrit. I really like your answer. You can make connections there, Amrit. So you can say, and in regards to my previous answer, that makes it quite easy for us to get together. So as I mentioned, I see them often. Okay, Amrit? So it's a good answer. Make connections whenever you can. Okay. Justine Philippe says, well, I have a tight nuclear family. We used to live in the same house in a small town called Kala Siao. It is always good to be with them because they give me great advice when I need it. Justine, don't switch to the second person voice you. Okay, that's awkward to say they give you best advice. They're not my parents, so they probably don't give me advice, I don't think, unless I've accidentally bumped into them on the street somewhere in the world. So always refer to yourself. Another big difference, students, another big difference in real world communication versus professional communication is in our everyday life, we love to use the word you in our communication. It's kind of a psychological trick to hold our listener. With our friends, pay attention today when you're talking to your friends. You'll notice how often you say you to your friend. You do this, you do that. You'll see this. I don't know why you did that. But you're not actually talking about them. You're talking about yourself or somebody else, but you're using the word you, okay? And of course, the other word that we often use in every day is the word thing or stuff. Don't use these words in the IELTS exam. Okay, you'll get a better band score. You'll get a higher band score. So let me put that up there. Okay, I'm just sticking this all under real communication versus communication on the IELTS exam. So another tip here is do not. Okay, real world. People say you all the time. In IELTS, do not use you. Instead, use the accurate noun like me or people. Okay? Again, it makes for more accurate communication. All right. So let's see what else we have. Lanthiu says, so my parents live in a small town of Ha Nam, which is 60 kilometers away from the capital in the south. This is part of the reason why I haven't had a chance to visit with them frequently. Lanthiu, good. So you made a very nice natural connection to your previous answer. That's great. And I love how some students picked up on that what I was trying to suggest is make connections among your answers. So, well, as I mentioned before about my hometown of Victoria, that is also where my parents live. However, unlike me, they live closer to the downtown core in a 2-bedroom condo. Okay, so making connections among the information that you provide, accurate connections, very useful to bump up your coherence and complexity scores. Also, when you do that, you tend to use more lexical resource as well, more vocabulary. So make those connections. Repeat after me, students. Well, as I mentioned before about my hometown of Victoria, that is also where my parents live. However, unlike me, they live closer to the downtown core in a 2-bedroom condo. One more time, a little bit faster. Well, as I mentioned before about my hometown of Victoria, that is also where my parents live. However, unlike me, they live closer to the downtown core in a 2-bedroom condo. At home, students, make sure that you practice your fluency. So repeat the same sentences faster and with more intonation. Do that practice regularly to increase your speech speed and your intonation. Okay? All right, next question. Here we go. Why is it important to have good parents? So again, this is kind of it's a question that you probably wouldn't hear from your friend during a coffee break, but on the IELTS, absolutely. Okay. Farhan, a condo is often referred to as a luxury apartment. So it's a nice apartment built out of concrete and steel. Okay. Um, why is it important to have good parents? Suha Khaled, very clever using the question. Having good parents is the most important part of a child's life because they are responsible for raising them to be hardworking, ethical, happy people, Suha. Okay? Suha, don't use the word thing in your answer. So instead of saying having good parents is the most important thing, say having good parents is the most important part of a child's life. Okay? Always avoid the word thing. George, 11111 says, not surprisingly, because our parents are the first people whom we interact with, this helps us formulate our personality and core values, like honesty and hard work. Right, George? Very good. Okay. Finish with adding in the question. So use the question, students. Therefore, having good parents is essential. Okay. Amrit says, because parents are meant to set an example for their children, the way parents nurture their child makes them a valuable role model in life, and good parenting leads to healthy, vibrant communities. Amrit, notice my corrections there. There's an important piece of vocabulary, Amrit, that you're looking for. It's role models, okay? Parents are the first role models in the life of a child, all right? Yeah, and I see the next comment right after that using that, so it's great, okay? Good, Amrit, you're picking up what I'm putting down. Excellent. Kamal Nupain says, because family always stands with you, whether you are right or wrong, and they never give up motivating you to be your best. Okay, Kamal, that is a good answer as well. I tweaked it a little bit to have it more natural. Okay. Trushang Thakar says, it is significant to have good parents for numerous reasons. Okay. Firstly, they always support their kids through thick and thin. Hence, the children can take advantage of this when they are in tough situations. Trushang, very good. Just be careful using leading expressions like there are numerous reasons or leading phrases. Then you have to give multiple reasons. So you gave me just one, which is basically parents support their children through thick and thin. But you should give me more, like as well, they set examples on how to behave, right? So only use, students, careful with that, only use phrases like there are many reasons for this if you're going to give at least a couple reasons. Otherwise, it's just awkward, so don't use it. Okay, then just give the reason. All right? There are several reasons why parents, why having good parents is critical in a child's life. Firstly, because they are their role models and set examples on how to behave and what not to do. Also, parents who love their children will support them through thick and thin. Might as well teach that to everyone. It was good of you to use that. Through thick and thin, no matter how challenging a situation. Okay, good. All right. Repeat after me. So there are several reasons why having good parents is critical in a child's life. Firstly, because they are their role models and set examples on how to behave and what not to do. Also, parents who love their children will support them through thick and thin, no matter how challenging a situation. All right, that works. Okay, students, so here are 3 more questions for you. What do you like about your mom and dad? How has parenting changed from one generation before? If you could change your parents in some way, what would it be? Those are some interesting questions for you to think about. I'll leave those questions for you to do for homework. Record your answers on your phone. Send it to me as an MP3 recording, and I will give you an estimate score for your IELTS speaking section. You can send the recordings, make sure it's MP3 please, to Adrian, Adrian, at aehelp.com. Okay, here are the questions one more time. So these last 3 questions. Again, what do you like about your mom and dad? How has parenting changed from one generation before? And if you could change your parents in some way, what would it be? Now again, as you're giving these responses, remember the importance of validity. Remember, this is not you chatting with your friend. Here, you're providing a structured, clear answer with coherent, complex grammar showing your highest English ability. Don't use words like you. They're not my parents. Use words like parents, mom, dad, father, mother. Okay, so speak clearly. And I will gladly give you a score estimate. Again, remember to join us on our websites. Our academic website looks like this with the blue background at aehelp.com. You have over 100 hours of video lessons there, as well as a fully interactive course, 6 original practice tests. And you have the same on our general IELTS website at gieltshelp.com. Click that button, and don't forget what I mentioned at the beginning of class. You can use this code LIVE20, L-I-V-E 20, for a 20% discount on the websites. Students, so many brilliant minds with us today, as often there are. A lot of great commenting and a lot of great answers. Thank you for your participation. Tomorrow we will continue with a members chat class, speaking part 2 at 13:30 Central European Time, followed by a listening strategy and practice class at 15 o'clock Central European Time. Hopefully I will see all of you then and there, and I can aid you further in improving your band scores and your English communication skills. Have an awesome rest of your day. I wish you good rest. Don't forget to speak as much as possible. Every chance you get, use your English. Bye for now, everyone.